Hey, so before we get started on today's video, I want to give a quick shout out to all the new subscribers. I have a goal of reaching 1,000 new subscribers by the end of 2023. So if you're enjoying the videos, send your boy some love. Subscribe to the channel. Now let's get into it. 2022. If anyone said that reparations is not a cornerstone of black politics, they would be disingenuous. Today, let's talk about my stance on reparations. First of all, I should explain what I mean by reparations. In the context of American reparations for descendants of American slaves, also known as FBA, Foundational Black Americans, also known as ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, the reparations that we are calling for should be in the form of cash payments among other forms, possibly educational stipends, housing, land allotments, etc. But cash payments is a cornerstone, a major pillar of the reparations movement, which I support. And I support reparations in the form of cash payments because this money is owed to FBA, to ADOS, to those who have descended and built the United States. And I say that for a few reasons. Number one, let's look at a family tree. So for a simple analogy, let's take a look at the family tree. At the top, we have grandma and grandpa. Let's say that grandma and grandpa have two children, white mommy and black daddy, right? So white mommy, she goes on to live her life. Let's say she's a seamstress and she marries a white man who owns his own construction company. They're able to have a nice life together. They're able to buy a house, send their kids to college, just have a regular middle class lifestyle and a happy life. But on the right-hand side, the black family, let's say the black dad is an architect and the black mom is a nurse. But due to the United States government, this architect who spends his life designing and building cabins in the woods, who spends his life building and designing homes for the white construction worker to live in, due to the United States government, the architect, the black architect, is paid $0 for his labor. For 50 years of labor, he gets nothing. The black mother, the nurse, who watches after white mommy's children when her kids get sick, who's able to make home remedies from things that she grew in her garden, she's also paid $0 and 0 cents. What's worse is the white man, the construction owner, is able to rape the black woman whenever he wants. The architect's wife gets raped whenever the construction owner wants. And this happens not for just one generation, but for multiple generations, for multiple centuries, for hundreds of years. After this period of the Dark Ages, let's call them, we get to current day, modern day children at the bottom of the family tree. Now, on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, we have hundreds of generations or hundreds of years, multiple generations of middle-class productive families and what they've been able to learn and teach their children and build on their own. And the fruits of their labor have been realized and passed down for multiple generations until current day. Whereas on the other side, on the black hand side, although we have architects in our family, although we have nurses in our family, although we have mathematicians, scientists, etc., all of their hard work, all of their labor, all of their inventions have brought them no material wealth. All of their wealth has been stolen, not by the white side of the family, but by the United States government, who ensured that they were unable to own any property for hundreds of years. Now, the family, the dad, the mom, the grandma, the grandpa, they might be dead. They might have passed on. But their children, both on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, Their lives are reflections of the effort put forth by the previous generations. Here's another analogy. Here's another example. Have you ever played Monopoly? If you haven't, the basic premise of the game goes like this. Everyone starts off at the starting point. Everyone gets 2 dice that they get to roll when it's their turn. And depending on what you roll on your dice, you can move your piece that many squares forward. If nobody owns the property that you land on, you can buy the property. And if somebody else lands on your property, they have to pay you rent. That is the game of Monopoly. But let's put an American twist on this game. Let's say at the beginning of the game, everybody's on go. Everybody's at the starting point and ready to play. But you have to start the game in prison. You're not allowed to roll the dice for 400 turns. Meanwhile, every other race, every other group is on go, and they're rolling the dice. They're moving forward. They're buying property for 400 turns. At the end of this 400 turns, you are finally let out of jail and you get to roll the dice. But unfortunately for you, you're 400 turns behind. Everyone else has already bought the property that you are now landing on. But all the other players are saying, hey, it's just a game. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You have dice just like us. Yeah, you didn't get to roll the dice for 400 turns, but that's the past. Sure, we bought up all this property, and now you're starting the game with nothing, but you get to roll the same dice we do. I think any fair and rational mind would have to admit that reparations is owed to those descendants of American slavery. So let's address 2 of the main arguments I hear against reparations. The number one argument that I hear against reparations is when people say, well, hey, my family just got here. We immigrated from another country in the 1970s or 80s, and we never owned any slaves. So why should I be responsible for paying reparations to slaves that we never owned? And this is a bit of a disingenuous argument, if you ask me, and I'll give you reasons why. First of all, as an FBA, as a foundational Black American, as an American descendant of slaves, as an American freedman, I, nor any of my family members, nor any of my ancestors ever stole or took anything from the Native Americans. We didn't take their land. We didn't give them smallpox. We didn't push them and force them onto reservations. Yet the United States government did. So we, as Black people, who some Native Americans even owned, although they owned us, we are forced to pay reparations to them. And I don't hear anybody complaining about that fact. Number 2, we do the same thing with the Holocaust survivors. As American citizens, as Black American citizens especially, we never put anyone through a Holocaust. We never put white people in gas chambers. We fought against this. We sacrificed and fought against the Nazis in World War II. Yet, when we came back from World War II, we came back to our own country, and our own country in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, moving on until today, continue to treat us as second-class citizens after we sacrificed blood, sweat, and tears to fight against Nazism abroad. Yet, we still must pay, as Black Americans, our tax dollars are used to pay reparations to Holocaust survivors that we have never done anything to. The same goes for the Japanese. Black Americans did not put Japanese people in internment camps. However, because the United States government was responsible for interning the Japanese during World War II, all of the United States citizens, Black Americans included, are responsible for repairing the damage done by the United States government. Furthermore, I think it's important for you to consider the reason why your parents and grandparents chose to immigrate to America in the first place. Mind you, they could have, if they had the ability, if they had the finances, if they had the option to immigrate to America, there's plenty of other countries that they could have immigrated to instead. But they chose America specifically because America is known as the wealthiest, most stable, and prosperous country in the world today. Now, the reason for America's stability and its prosperity is because back before there was a United States, back when there were only colonies, this land that we now call the United States had a black population who was working for free to turn a wilderness into a utopia. Now, up until the 1960s, if you were black, you didn't even have the option to immigrate into America. So if you're a black or someone of color and you're living in America and your family came after the 1960s, first of all, you should just be supportive of us because we're the reason you're even here. So already you should be thankful just to be here. But let's say you're a white person listening to this and your grandparents, your great grandparents, they came before the 60s because you were allowed to come. And you're asking, well, even though my great great granddad came over from Italy or from Ireland or Germany, wherever he came from, he didn't, own any slaves. He just came to America because he wanted a better life. But the reason America was able to give him a better life was because he, back when he was in Germany or back when he was in Ireland or back when he was in Italy, wherever it is that he knew that if I can just make it to America, I'll be able to live in a place where my whiteness is valued. Although I'm just an average guy, I don't really have any special skills. There's nothing that I can do in America that I can't do here in Germany or I can't do here in Italy. But in America, there's a foundation of wealth built on the free labor of black people. And if I can just get to America, I can take advantage. I can have a slice of the pie that those black foundational Americans are providing. So far, I don't think I've said anything anybody with a fair and rational mind could disagree with. But there's one other argument that I hear very often coming from other minorities, quote unquote minorities, people of color, other immigrants. Something that they like to say a lot is, well, the U.S. will never grant reparations, so you should just give up on it. Let's not even talk about it because it'll never happen. So let's address that frame of thought. So the idea that we can give up, we as foundational black Americans can give up the fight for reparations because at the moment it might seem improbable. That's a defeatist attitude that black Americans have never been able to afford. You see, take it back to those who were on the Atlantic slave trade, those ships, hundreds of years ago. Many people chose to jump off of the ship. Many people starved themselves to death. Many people died due to lack of will to survive. However, those people who died, who had no will to survive, a lot of them, their whole family lineage died with them. They had no descendants. Their entire bloodline is gone because they had not the will nor the strength to survive. It's sad. It's unfortunate that they didn't make it. However, whenever you look in 2022, 2023, whenever you look at a foundational black American, an American who descended from slaves, understand that they are the descendant of a survivor. They are a descendant of someone who said, yes, it might look bad right now. Yes, it might be improbable that I'm able to make it from Africa all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to America. Yes, they thought it might not be possible, but they endured. They survived. They kept fighting to survive. Fast forward, there are people who said, well, we'll never be free. Why shouldn't we just commit suicide? Why shouldn't we just die here now because the slaves will never be free? Imagine if they would have kept that defeatist attitude. The Seminole Wars would have never been fought and won. Jessup's Proclamation would have never been issued. The American Emancipation Proclamation would have never been issued. The abolition movement would have never been pushed because people would have had the defeatist attitude of, oh, well, slavery is just a reality. It will never change. No, we cannot afford that defeatist mentality. Furthermore, fast forward to the 60s, civil rights era. How many people said, no, I don't support Martin Luther King because, we're meant to live segregated. We'll never have integration. We'll never be able to sit at the same restaurants or go to the same schools as our white counterparts. Our tax dollars will go to building up their YMCAs, but our schools, our pools will always be degraded. Our parks will always be run down. Our books will always be old. We won't have the benefit of our tax dollars fixing up our streets. Our tax dollars will only fix up the white side of town. No, people decided, although this is the status quo now, this situation will not always be. And although it looks improbable for change right now, I'm going to keep pushing and fighting for change in the future. So in conclusion, yes, I definitely 100% support reparations. And I'll take it one step further. I think it's inevitable that we get it. Not impossible, not improbable, inevitable. Foundational Black Americans will receive reparations in the United States. And it's not a question of if, it's only a question of when. But hey, that's just what I think. Tell me if I'm wrong. Leave it in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you're new or if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. As I said in the intro, I'm looking to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2023. Help me out, guys. Show me some love. I appreciate you all. Peace.